Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the very first Maximize Your Brand Monday with Markeith Brayton. So excited that you are with me today because this is a brand new show series that I'm going to be doing each and every Monday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. You already know the drill. If you follow me over the years, you know that I always like to greet you. So go ahead and type your name in the comments. Let me know what city you are tuning in from as we go throughout today's live. So excited that you are with me. Let me just make sure that we are good online. We are simulcasting today's video across Facebook and LinkedIn. I thought I was going to do Instagram as well, but I decided that I'll just do Instagram a little bit later in the day. So we are good online, and I'm so excited that you have joined me today for this very first session of Maximize Your Brand Monday. And our title for today is What It Really Means to Maximize Your Brand. What it really means to maximize your brand. I came up with this topic not too long ago because, I always talk about maximizing your brand. And I said the very first episode should be all about maximizing your brand. Before we get started, let me introduce myself. I am Markeith Brayton, speaker, personal brand strategist, and the host of the Maximize Your Brand podcast, where I help subject matter experts to grow and build their brand and influence online so that it impacts their income. I have come to understand and to know that the more that we provide value into the world, the more that we are intentional about building our person, building our personal brand, the more that it impacts our level of influence in the world as well as impact our income. And if you consider yourself to be a subject matter expert, then you are the person who I am speaking to each and every day all around. How do I leverage my skills? How do I hone in on my innate gifts and talents and leverage that for myself to create the life that I ultimately desire? And that is what we're going to be talking about today. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Today's topic is all about how to really hone in on your personal brand. The question for today is, what does it really mean to maximize your brand? Somebody type that in the comments for me. What does it really mean to maximize your brand? That's what we're going to be answering today. And I think this is going to be a two-part series because there were more steps than I originally thought. And I was like, this should be a two-part series. So we'll do the first part today and the second part next Monday, because you're going to be surprised in what I think it means to maximize your brand. You're going to be really surprised on what I think. And so those of you who are on LinkedIn and on Facebook, be sure to share in the comments if you have questions or anything that you would like to share today. I'll be reading the comments right here on the screen. So the first thing that I think about when I ask this question of what does it really mean to maximize your brand, the first thing I think about is that it means you know your purpose and your why. That you're committed to knowing your purpose and your why. I'll never forget a quote that I learned some time ago from the late Dr. Miles Monroe. Dr. Miles Monroe had this wonderful quote that I pretty much committed to heart. And it was really foundational to my business and why I do what it is that I do. And he said that the greatest tragedy in life is life without purpose. Life that simply has no direction. Moreover, he says, life's greatest failure is to be successful at the wrong assignment. If you're going to maximize your brand, you have to know your purpose and your why. Understanding and knowing your purpose really gives you the direction that you need based on what it is that you should be doing in the world. That most of us are really doing the wrong thing or are operating or functioning in the wrong assignment because we really don't fully know our purpose and understand our why. And so, if you're going to really maximize your brand, if you're really going to maximize your brand, point number one is that you have to be committed to knowing your purpose. I'd like for you to, if you know what your purpose is, I'd just like for you to raise your hand in the comments. Put an emoji with your hand raised in the comments if you know your purpose and understand your why. What I know my purpose to be is to help other individuals to really unearth and align with their purpose, and then teach them how to leverage that purpose in order to create income and the lifestyle that they ultimately desire. That I am a person who encourages and builds up other individuals to be in alignment with what it is that they're called to do. I truly believe that that's my purpose, which is why I landed in this area of personal branding. Some people consider personal branding only to be about, building your influence and your celebrity and becoming known. All of those things are part of personal branding, but I believe that when you really do the work of personal branding, you really get to know who you are. Say that again. That when you really do the work of personal branding, you really get to know who you are. That's so important to me. So important to me that you really get to know who you are. So you're committed. When you're maximizing your brand, you're committed to knowing your purpose and your why. Thank you, Cynthia, for raising your hand. I appreciate your participation today. Point number two. Point number two. What does it really mean to maximize your brand? Point number two is that you're committed to honing your innate and learned skills. This is so good. That when you're maximizing your brand, you're really committed to honing your innate and learned skills. Innate skills are those things that you didn't have to be taught, but you were good at. For example, I didn't have to be taught how to sing. I innately had a singing voice. God gave me a voice to be able to sing. I innately have this confidence in my speaking ability. People always compliment me on my articulation and my ability to speak and to move people. Learned skills are something that I'm doing right now with my live stream. I learned how to produce live streams, and now organizations and people pay me to produce these type of more high-end live streams rather than just going live and not having lower thirds, not having music in your live stream. It's a learned skill. And I learned that skill by learning how to promote and market myself as a speaker, as a coach, as a podcaster. Podcasting is another learned skill. Podcasting is another learned skill that I have. And so when you're really committed to maximizing your brand, you're honing in on what are the things that I do well. What are those learned things that have become rote memory and rote habit for me? Here are 3 questions that I want you to answer. And somebody type these in the comments for me. Type these in the comments for me as you're listening. 3 questions you should ask yourself to kind of identify or to help align your innate and learned skill to things that you enjoy doing. Question number one is, what would you do right now if you knew you could not fail? What would you do right now if you knew you could not fail? I'm going to drink some water real quick. What would you do right now if you knew you could not fail? Would you be doing exactly what you're doing right now, or would it be something different? Number two, what do you love doing so much? What do you love doing so much that you lose track of time while doing it? That you love it so much that when you're doing it, you don't even realize the whole day has already gone by. You don't even realize that you've spent several hours doing that thing. And then number three, what is it you love doing so much that you do it for free, even though you could get paid for it? Thank you, Cynthia, for typing these in the comments. What do you love doing so much that you do it for free, even though you could get paid to do it? I can remember when I first got started, I was speaking all over the places and not charging any of the organizations or any of the events that I was speaking at for some time. But I could get paid for doing it. And I'll never forget the first time I got paid to speak. I was a sophomore in college. And my men's group of the church, my home church here in Nashville, I was home for the summer and they paid me $500 to be the men's speaker that day. And I spoke for about 15 minutes. I would do it for free, even though I could get paid for it. These three questions help you to align your gifts and your talents to the thing or the things that you should be doing potentially and be creating the life that you ultimately desire. Sophomore in college, my first paid speaking engagement, United Methodist Men's Group, sophomore in college. So think about those three questions when you're thinking about maximizing your brand. Point number two was honing in on your innate gifts and talents and your learned skills. Point number three. You're committed to the clarity of your values and your mission. What it really means to maximize your brand is that you're clear on what your values are and what your mission is. See, our values help to guide our decision making, right? Our values help to guide who we will work with and who we won't work with. Our mission helps to give insight on who the particular individuals are that we are assigned to help. Notice I use the word assign. That we are assigned to help, that we are assigned to provide service to. That I firmly believe that you're given your gifts and your talents and you've developed the skills that you have for a particular group of people. That your stock, that your personality, that your gifts are not for everybody, but they are for somebody. And we have to be clear on what our values are and what our mission is so that we are clear and aligned with the individuals that we're called to help. I know that in my speaking, that I could speak in a lot of places, but I am learning now that I believe my message is really good and could be really helpful for today's college student before they graduate. Teaching them, how do I really hone in on my purpose? How do I really start to hone in on what my brand is before I graduate so that I know how to provide value to the marketplace, whether I get a job or start my own business? that I can help start the process of teaching them how to leverage their personal brand before they graduate, while they're in college, so that they have that unique step ahead than some of their peers. Why can I speak to that? Because when I was in college, even though I wasn't consciously thinking about building my personal brand, I was building a brand of leadership, building a brand as a speaker, building a brand as a teacher, building a brand of serving and helping people with things that they may not understand and being able to break it down. While I was in college, I was a student ambassador. I was a resident assistant. I was the treasurer of student government. I was Mr. KSU. All of those opportunities were things that I ran for and had to debate and do speaking engagements and represent the school and represent the student body. And what was I using? I was using those innate gifts that I naturally had. Fast forward to graduating from college, going to graduate school, getting a job, I still leverage those same things in order to create a level of success for myself. Maximizing your brand really means having clarity around your vision, your mission, and the things that are attached to it. Point number 3, clarity of your values and your mission. Clarity of your values and your mission. Point number 4, what does it really mean to maximize your brand? Point number 4, that you're committed to creating your value proposition. Now, what is a value proposition, Marquis? The value proposition is the transformation that you help people get. Type that in the comments for me. Thank you, Cynthia, once again. That your value proposition speaks to the transformation that people will have after doing business with you, after encountering you. For example, the transformation that individuals have with me, especially within the business, is that they learn how to package their knowledge, their expertise, their talent as a product or a service so that they can become the known person and get paid while doing it. That right now they're in a space of having a lot of knowledge, having great skill, but they don't know how to properly brand themselves, market themselves, and create a back end way in order for them to get paid. So your value proposition is, what is the transformation that an individual receives after encountering you or your business? And here's something I learned from one of my coaches on how to create your value proposition. And I appreciate anyone who, Cynthia, thank you for continuing to type those notes in. I appreciate you sharing this. And so answer these questions. I am blank. I help blank. To do blank so they can blank. Let me do that again. I am blank. Fill in the blank. I help. Fill in the blank. To do, fill in the blank so they can fill in the blank. I'll give you an example using my example. I am Markeith Braden, personal brand strategist, speaker, and podcast host. I help subject matter experts who desire to go into coaching, consulting, and speaking to build their brand and influence online so that it impacts their income. I'll say it one more time. I am Markeith Braden, speaker, personal brand strategist, and podcast host. I help subject matter experts who desire to go into consulting, coaching, and speaking to build their brand and influence online so that it impacts their income. I help to do so they can. That's your value proposition. So you are committed to creating your value proposition. You're committed to creating your value proposition. I'm going to pause for a second and just see if there are any questions or comments that I might be missing online real quick. So let me go to my pages and see if there are any comments. Awesome. Thank you, Sakoni, for participating and being on today as well. Thank you for those of you who are on LinkedIn. I appreciate you. So let's just keep going. Thank you, Cynthia, for typing in those notes. Two more points before my meeting. Point number 5. You're committed to defining your niche and your area of expertise. Remember, I said this is going to be part 1. Notice I'm not talking about website. I'm not talking about branding and colors. I'm not talking about programs and sales. I'm not talking about any of that. I think these are the most important parts before we get to that, which will be part 2. But part 1 is that and point number 5 is that you're committed to defining your niche and your area of expertise. I learned this some time ago, and it was a struggle for me to really hone in on my niche. But the riches are in the niches. Somebody type that in the comments for me. The riches are in the niches. The riches are in the niches. The riches are in the niches. Thank you, Cynthia. Cynthia typed her value proposition and she said, I am Cynthia West Galbraith, sales director with Mary Kay. I help people find the skincare products that best bring forth their radiant and confident self so they can feel better about themselves. So good. She had it. I help to do so they can. What's your value proposition? Those of you who are watching the replay, feel free to type your value proposition in the comments and I'll give you some feedback. What's your value proposition? What's your value proposition? Point number 5, define your niche. My niche is personal branding. Subject matter experts, people who are at the top of their game. They have a knowledge base, they have a skill set, and they can turn that skill set into the business, but they don't really know how to step into consulting, to step into coaching, to step into speaking and get paid for it. So you're committed, point number 5, to knowing and defining your niche. And our last point for this part of the series, is point number 6, that you're committed to providing value and being helpful. That you're committed to having a value mindset and that you're committed to being helpful. That at the end of the day, the more helpful you are in helping other people get the transformation or get the result that they want, the better you are in your business. I think it was Zig Ziglar. He says, the more people, if you can help enough people get what they want out of life, you can just about have anything you want in life. Say it again. If you can help enough people get what they want out of life, the result, the transformation, you can have just about everything you want in life. So good, so good. Zig Ziglar. So you have to be committed to providing value and being helpful to people. Committing value and being helpful to people. The more value you provide to people, the better your life will be. Those were my 6 points for today. And what it really means to maximize your brand. Let me go through those again real quick before my meeting here. Point number 1 is that you got to be committed to knowing your purpose and your why. Point number 2, you got to be committed to honing your innate and learned skills. Point number 3, You got to be committed to having clarity of your values and your mission. Point number 4, you have to be committed to creating your value proposition. I help to do so they can. Point number 5, you've got to be committed to defining your niche and knowing your area of expertise. And point number 6, you might be committed to providing a value mindset and being helpful. So those of you who are live, thank you for joining me today. Let me know if this was a good first session of Maximize Your Brand Monday. This is part 1 of what it really means to maximize your brand. Next week, we'll have part 2, and we'll get more into the practical things that you should do in order to maximize and grow your brand online so that it impacts your income. But until next time, just remember this: always shoot for the top, because it's the bottom that's overcrowded. Take care.